Alright, what's going on, guys? Chapter 188 of Beastars. Let's get right into it. So it looks like the gazelle that we saw in the previous chapter is in fact Melon's father, and he's being interviewed by the local paparazzi. And they're trying to find out more information, whether or not it's possible for interspecies to have a baby like that. And Gosha is not taking too kindly to this. So he decides to crush one of the cameras with his hand, and he spits his venom on the rest of the cameras in the area. And, afterwards, he kind of apologizes. He's like, hey, is everyone okay? I didn't want to hurt anyone. Just make sure to use polyethylene bags and make sure to wash your hands with alcohol before you touch your loved ones. So pretty funny moment by Gosha. So Gosha grabs Melon's father by the hand. They start running through the black market alley. They want to get to Legoshi and Melon. And so it's kind of funny because Legoshi and Melon are having a fight to the death. And yet Gosha's like, oh, this is perfect. I can go meet my grandson. You can go meet your son. Everyone's gonna be happy. So a little blissfully unaware there by Gosha. But as they're running through the alley, Gosha decides to ask Melon's father. He's like, hey, how long has it been since you've seen your son? And here's the big bombshell, guys. What we've been waiting to hear since the beginning of this arc. Melon's father turns out to be a bit of a loser. An unwilling father figure. It turns out that he walked out on Melon's mother and Melon at a very young age. I guess he just wasn't ready to handle a full-time relationship. He felt like that at some point, if he married a leopard, that she might eventually eat him. And yeah, he turns out to be a deadbeat dad. So he just walks out on the entire situation, leaves Melon and her mother all alone to care for themselves, and he kind of plays it off as if it is normal. Like, he doesn't even seem to regret his decision. He's like, well, everyone does it, right? And god damn, just when you thought Melon was the evil guy, just when you thought there was no redeeming him, you find out that his mother may have sexually abused him when he was a child, and his dad just walked out on him. So he really didn't have those caring people in his life that could sort of guide him in the right direction. And this is kind of what I was talking about in previous manga reviews, that maybe Melon ended up this way because of circumstance. Maybe he could have become Louis or Legoshi or someone who was aspiring for some form of greatness, but because he didn't have that influence, he tried to fill that void with violence. And because violence is a means of getting attention, the attention that he didn't have as a child, it kind of all makes sense. And it certainly reminds me of the quote by John Bradford in reference to a group of prisoners that were being led to their execution, where he proclaimed, "There, but for the grace of God, goes John Bradford." You can replace John Bradford with I. And basically what that's saying is that given the right circumstances, or to put it another way, given the wrong circumstances, we could all end up in a disposition that society would deem as awful and wrong. But because Melon was purportedly abused as a child and his father left him and he didn't have that male influence and he didn't have a guiding voice in his life, this is how he ended up. So he doesn't seem like such a bad guy after all. He just seems like someone who ended up on the wrong side of the tracks in life, and he's trying to cope with that as best as he can. Again, it's not justifiable, but it's certainly understandable, and it's something that you can empathize with, because perhaps if you were in the same situation, that could have been you. So very fascinating stuff. And then the chapter ends with Melon stating, revenge of the love failure is complete, and he asks Legoshi to rip his throat out. And instead of Melon's usual high-pitched voice, he's talking in a very normal voice now, you know, as if he was talking like a normal person. So it's very fascinating because we're reading the manga, so we don't know what the voices of various characters sound like. Like, we know what Legoshi sounds like because we've seen the anime. So we don't know what Melon sounds like. I'm gonna be very interested to see how they portray him. I'm wondering if they're gonna give him like a slightly Joker-ish kind of voice, you know, that high-pitched kind of laughter and such. Probably not the gravelly Heath Ledger voice, but maybe more of that Mark Hamill Joker voice. You know, the kind of, ooh, Betsy. But anyway, so that will be very fascinating to see. But how will Legoshi reconcile this problem now? Will he identify Melon as true evil and someone who has to be eradicated from the planet? Or will he start to see that other side of Melon? Will he say to himself, you know what? Maybe this isn't the right decision to kill him at this moment in time. Maybe we can reform him. Maybe it's kind of like Riz in a way. Which is a great parallel because Riz was kind of seen as this monstrous animal during the Murder Incident Solution arc. And through the end, we kind of figured out that maybe he was using a psychological device to deceive himself because he couldn't handle the fact that Tem couldn't accept him for who he was. And maybe Melon's falling into the same trap where because his mother and his father didn't accept him, that he's trying to rectify that by throwing everything into chaos because his life has been chaos. He's projecting the inner chaos of his life onto the world. And maybe Legoshi will see past these psychotic machinations and start to understand and empathize with the beast within. So who knows? We'll have to see how this resolves. We don't know how far Gosha, Yafia, and Melon's father are away from the battle, but I would presume that they'll probably get there within the next chapter. But will they find a dead Melon? Or will they find an alive Melon? I think that Legoshi will probably let Melon live. I mean, given all the battles up until this point, it would make me think that Legoshi's going to be very understanding and try to see things from a different perspective. But you never know. So until next time, guys, catch you on the flip side.